The lights haven't even fully come up yet, and already the room feels different. You can sense it, the kind of silence that leans forward, the kind that pulls you in and refuses to let go. Before we begin, I want you to do something small but powerful. If stories about hidden talent, raw emotion, and impossible dreams turning real inspire you even a little, tap the like button and subscribe to the channel right now. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a performance. It's a life-changing moment that reminds us why we believe in miracles. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why the judges couldn't hold back their tears, why the crowd screamed until their voices broke, and why Cowell smashed the golden buzzer without a second thought. He stood alone at the center of the massive stage, barefoot inside worn-out shoes that had clearly walked too many miles. The camera zoomed in, and millions watching around the world noticed the same thing at once. This was just a boy. Thin arms, shy eyes, a shirt that looked borrowed from an older cousin. His name was Miguel Santos, a 14-year-old boy from a small coastal village in the Philippines, a place where the ocean gives life but also takes so much away. His hands trembled as he held the microphone, not because he was afraid of singing, but because he was afraid of hoping. When the judges asked him where he came from, Miguel smiled politely and answered in soft, careful English. He spoke about his village, about the small wooden house he shared with his mother and two younger sisters. His father, he said, used to sing too. The smile faded just a little when he mentioned him. His father had passed away years ago after a long illness, leaving Miguel as the man of the house long before he was ready. The judges nodded gently, but they'd heard stories like this before. Hard stories. Sad stories. Still, no one expected what was about to happen. Simon leaned forward. "So, Miguel," he asked, "why are you here?" Miguel swallowed. He glanced at the audience, then at the judges, and finally down at the floor. "I am here," he said, "because music is the only thing that makes my mother smile when she is tired. And I want to give her a better life." His voice cracked on the last word. The crowd murmured softly, but Miguel didn't cry. He had learned long ago how to hold tears back. When asked what he would sing, Miguel took a deep breath. "Hotel California," he said. There was a pause. A strange one. Some people smiled. Some raised eyebrows. It was a bold choice. A legendary song. One that could easily swallow a young voice whole. Simon tilted his head slightly, curious but skeptical. "Okay," he said simply. "Whenever you're ready." The music began. At first, it was just the familiar guitar intro, echoing through the theater. Miguel closed his eyes. He didn't look nervous anymore. He looked somewhere else, somewhere far away, somewhere only he could see. And then he sang. The first note stopped the room cold. It wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. It was pure. Smooth, rich, and impossibly controlled for someone his age. The tone carried a depth that didn't match his small frame, as if the song had lived inside him for years, waiting patiently for the right moment to escape. The audience leaned forward. Judges exchanged quick glances. Something unexpected was happening. As Miguel moved through the first verse, his voice wrapped around the melody like it belonged there. He didn't copy the original. He didn't try to impress. He told the story his own way, shaping each word with emotion earned through experience, not rehearsal. You could hear the nights he'd sung this song quietly in his head while lying on a thin mattress, listening to waves crash outside his window. You could hear the longing, the confusion, the hope. By the chorus, the crowd was already reacting. Gasps. Whispers. A woman in the front row wiped her eyes. One judge leaned back, hands covering their mouth. Miguel's voice soared, but it never broke. It carried pain without becoming heavy, strength without becoming hard. Flashbacks played across the screen, Miguel singing on a broken dock at sunset, helping his mother at a small food stall, holding his sister's hands as they walked to school. His life wasn't easy. Every peso mattered. School supplies were shared. Dreams were postponed. But music? Music was free. Music was his escape. As the song continued, Miguel opened his eyes and looked straight at the judges. There was no fear in them now. Only honesty. Only truth. He wasn't asking for pity. He wasn't begging for sympathy. He was offering something rare, a moment of real connection. Halfway through the performance, one of the judges was openly crying. Not quiet tears. Real ones. The kind that fall before you can stop them. The crowd erupted in applause even before the song ended, but Miguel didn't break. He stayed in the moment, every note landing exactly where it needed to. Then came the final chorus. Miguel poured everything into it. Every sacrifice his mother had made. Every meal skipped so his sisters could eat. Every night he sang to remember his father's voice. The music swelled, and when he hit the final note, he held it strong, steady, unshaken, before letting it fade into silence. For half a second, there was nothing. Then the entire theater exploded. People jumped to their feet, screaming, clapping, crying. It wasn't just a standing ovation, it was chaos. Joyful chaos. Miguel stood frozen, eyes wide, as if he couldn't quite understand what was happening. He bowed slightly, unsure of what to do, overwhelmed by the sound. The judges stood too. One wiped their face and shook their head in disbelief. Another simply whispered, "Wow." And Simon Cowell, who had remained unusually still throughout the performance, slowly stood up. The crowd grew louder, sensing something big. Simon looked at Miguel for a long moment. "You know," he said finally, his voice unusually soft, "I've heard this song 1,000 times. I didn't expect to hear it like that again." He paused. That was not a performance. That was a story. Miguel's hand shook again, but this time for a different reason. Simon continued. "You came from so far, with so little, and you stood on this stage like you belonged here. Because you do." He smiled slightly. "And I think your father would be very proud of you." Miguel's face crumpled. Tears finally fell. Then Simon turned, reached out, and slammed his hand down on the golden buzzer. Gold exploded from the ceiling like a dream breaking into reality. The crowd screamed louder than ever. Miguel dropped to his knees, sobbing openly now, as judges rushed the stage to hug him. Confetti stuck to his hair and shoulders, but he didn't care. Somewhere in the Philippines, his mother watched the screen, hand over her mouth, crying and laughing at the same time. In that moment, Miguel wasn't a poor boy from a small village anymore. He was hope made visible. Proof that talent can rise from anywhere. Proof that pain doesn't have to define the ending. As the scene faded, one thing was clear, this wasn't just about a song or a competition. It was about believing when the world gives you every reason not to. It was about carrying your past without letting it chain your future. Miguel walked off the stage that night knowing his life had changed, but more importantly, knowing his voice mattered. And maybe, just maybe, as you sit watching this right now, his story reminds you that your dreams matter too. So don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and keep believing. Because sometimes, all it takes is one voice, one moment, and one golden chance to change everything. The lights dim, the crowd settles, and before anything even happens, you feel it, that quiet pull, that strange electricity in the air that tells you something unforgettable is about to unfold. Before we go any further, let me ask you something. Have you ever seen a moment so powerful that it stayed with you long after the screen went dark? If stories of raw talent, impossible odds, and dreams that rise from poverty inspire you even a little, press like and subscribe right now, because what you're about to experience isn't just another talent show story. It's a reminder of why hope refuses to die, even in the hardest places on earth. Backstage, Miguel Santos stood in line with other contestants, his heart pounding so hard he thought the microphone would pick it up. Around him were confident singers, dancers stretching their muscles, performers laughing nervously with friends. Miguel stood quietly, clutching the strap of his worn guitar case even though he wouldn't need it on stage. It was the only thing he owned that still smelled like home. The case was old, cracked at the edges, a gift from his father before sickness stole him away. Miguel closed his eyes and whispered a short prayer, not for fame, not for money, but for courage. Just enough courage to sing. Miguel came from a tiny fishing village in the Philippines, a place where mornings began before sunrise and ended long after sunset. His mother sold dried fish at a roadside stall, earning barely enough to keep food on the table. Miguel woke up every day at 4 a.m. to help her prepare before walking miles to school. At night, when his sisters slept, he would sit by the window, listening to the ocean and humming songs he heard on an old radio someone had thrown away years ago. That radio changed his life. Through its static, Miguel discovered music from places he had never seen: America, Europe, worlds that felt unreal. One night, Hotel California played. He didn't understand every word, but he felt every note. It sounded like longing. Like being trapped and dreaming at the same time. It became his song. When his name was called, Miguel felt his legs go weak. The stage manager gave him a gentle nod. "You're next," she said. Miguel stepped forward, the roar of the crowd growing louder with every step. The lights blinded him for a moment as he walked onto the stage. He squinted, searching for something familiar, but all he could see were shadows and thousands of faces watching, waiting, judging. He took his place at the center of the stage and held the microphone with both hands. The judges smiled politely. They'd seen hundreds of hopefuls that day. Another boy. Another dream. When asked about his background, Miguel spoke honestly. He didn't exaggerate. He didn't dramatize. He simply told the truth. About his mother. His sisters. His father, who used to sing while fixing fishing nets. The audience listened, touched but cautious. Everyone had heard sad stories before. But sadness alone doesn't make history. Then came the song choice. Hotel California. A ripple moved through the crowd. Some people chuckled softly. Others exchanged doubtful looks. It was a risky choice for a young boy with no formal training. Simon raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued but unconvinced. "All right," he said. "Let's hear it." The opening notes filled the theater. Miguel closed his eyes again, just like he did at home, and sang. The first line left his mouth like a confession. His voice was warm, controlled, and impossibly mature. It didn't sound rehearsed. It sounded lived in. The audience leaned forward as if pulled by an invisible force. Judges froze. This wasn't what they expected. This wasn't imitation. This was interpretation. Miguel sang as if he understood the loneliness behind the lyrics, as if he had checked into his own version of that hotel long ago. As he moved through the song, his voice grew stronger, weaving emotion into every phrase. He didn't rush. He didn't show off. He trusted the song, and more importantly, he trusted himself. The camera caught Simon's expression changing, skepticism melting into focus. One judge pressed a hand to their chest, eyes shining. Another nodded slowly, already convinced. Miguel remembered singing this song during storms, when rain leaked through the roof and his mother tried to catch drops with old bowls. He remembered singing it softly at his father's bedside, hoping music could heal what medicine could not. Every memory poured into his voice, and somehow, the audience felt it too. By the second chorus, people were already standing. Not cheering, listening. Truly listening. Tears rolled down faces without shame. The song wasn't about a hotel anymore. It was about being stuck in poverty, in grief, in fear, and still daring to dream. When Miguel reached the guitar solo section, his voice floated effortlessly over the melody, filling the space with quiet power. The theater felt smaller, more intimate, as if the performance was meant for each person individually. Time slowed. No one checked their phones. No one whispered. Even the cameras seemed to move more gently. As the final chorus approached, Miguel opened his eyes and looked directly into the crowd. His gaze wasn't pleading. It was grateful. Grateful for being heard. Grateful for this one chance. His voice rose, clear and strong, carrying everything he had inside. When he sang the final note, he held it just long enough for it to break hearts, and then he let it go. Silence. A deep, heavy silence. And then the room exploded. The crowd screamed, clapped, cried, and shouted his name. Judges jumped to their feet. One wiped tears openly, shaking their head in disbelief. Another laughed through sobs, overwhelmed. Miguel stood frozen, stunned by the noise, unsure whether it was real or just another dream. Simon stood last. He didn't rush. He looked at Miguel with an intensity that silenced the crowd. "You know," he said slowly, "I didn't believe this song could surprise me anymore. I was wrong." He paused, letting the moment breathe. That was honesty. That was pain. That was beautiful. Miguel's lips trembled. Simon continued, "People think talent comes from privilege. From lessons. From money. Tonight, you proved them wrong." Then Simon turned and smashed the golden buzzer. Gold confetti poured from above like sunlight breaking through clouds. The audience screamed louder than ever before. Miguel collapsed to his knees, overwhelmed, crying without restraint. Judges rushed the stage, lifting him up, hugging him as the golden rain fell. Somewhere across the ocean, in a small wooden house, Miguel's mother screamed and cried, dropping to the floor as neighbors rushed in to see what had happened. In that moment, Miguel wasn't poor. He wasn't invisible. He was seen. After the show, backstage cameras caught Miguel holding the golden buzzer ticket, staring at it as if it might disappear. "This is for my family," he said softly. "For my father." His story spread across the world overnight. People shared the clip, commenting from every country, every language. Some saw talent. Others saw hope. Parents hugged their children tighter. Dreamers felt braver. A boy who once sang to the ocean had been heard by millions. Miguel went on to the live shows, facing new challenges, pressure, doubt, expectations. But he never forgot where he came from. Every time he stepped on stage, he remembered his mother's tired smile, his sister's laughter, his father's voice. And no matter what happened next, one truth remained unshaken: his voice had already changed lives. And maybe it changed yours too. So if this story moved you, if it reminded you that greatness can rise from the humblest places, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because somewhere right now, another Miguel is singing in the dark, waiting to be heard. And sometimes, all it takes is one moment, one song, and one golden chance to change everything.